Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trucked Before. This time, Lifesigns. Lifesigns. We're back on Voyager, and there are life signs that this series is going somewhere, and so is this podcast. Speaking of life signs, you can find life signs of us out on Facebook, on your social media. It's all been trucked before. Funny memes, funny promos. We'll keep you abreast of what's going on. Maybe you missed a couple weeks. Maybe you got into some other things, some other podcast. Maybe you're on a vacation. Maybe you got off the grid. We'll get you back in. Just make sure you keep following us. It's all been trucked before. Spelled like it sounds. And this, let's find those life signs. It's all been trucked before. Voyager.
Welcome out to another episode. It's all been trekked before. Your skeleton crew is here.
This is Steven.
This is Olivia James, and we are here to talk about the Voyager episode, Lifesigns, First Impressions.
You know, for a holo-based, it's not really not holodeck episode, I enjoyed it overall. The Paris stuff, we'll get into that. That still feels kind of weird, even though I love Paris, obviously. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, I thought it was... there's echoes of some TOS stuff in here, and we'll get into that as well. So I guess a typical Voyager episode with what I've just said is like, well, wasn't necessarily great, but we learn more about the Vidians, and there's some other stuff and illusions. So yeah, I thought it was, I guess for Voyager so far, slightly above average. But I wouldn't have prayed for it, but I thought it was all right. But I thought there was a lot to like about it, or at least it was interesting, even though it fell into some of the usual Voyager tropes so far.
I agree with you. I think it was in general a pretty typical Voyager episode. Where I like this episode, and I did remember this episode, is Danara Pell, the character of Dr. Danara Pell, and her romance with the Doctor, I thought was well acted and compelling. And I really liked that. You're right about Paris. We'll talk about more of that, because that's been a running theme for the last few episodes, which feels like a departure from where he'd been growing and like a real big backslide that we've been dealing with for a few episodes now. And that is building to something, obviously, because even though Voyager's not serialized like Deep Space Nine, they did build some little ongoing things, and Paris's slip into insubordination is one of them. So, he did just have babies with the captain, though, so he should have... Maybe that's why the captain opts out of disciplining him. If I just had his babies, I'm not neutral in this. That would be biased right away. And yeah,
that's right.
in general, yeah, I know. I can't believe that. I felt that episode was later in the series. I can't believe it was that early. We're already past Janeway and Paris's babies that we never see again. But yeah, I liked it because of the love story. Yeah. Overall, it was fine. I will say, Zoe and I just started watching Once Upon a Time, which kind of connects to our Jane Espenson last week. And this is for the Patreon, of course. Yeah. Because she's been watching Psych with me and old classic Star Trek and Bunheads, we're doing Bunheads before we do Gilmore Girls because she's not ready for Gilmore Girls yet. But Bunheads is more mature than I remembered. So anyway, but Raphael Sbarge was a main character in the first season of Once Upon a Time. And I'm like, oh yeah, Michael Jonas. So she was watching this episode with me. And I was like, Zoe, do you recognize the guy in the shadows? And she's like, no. And I'm like, it's Jiminy Cricket. And she's like, oh yeah. Because last night we watched a Jiminy Cricket-centric episode of Once Upon a Time. So we watched this first. And then like a couple hours later, we watched the Jiminy Cricket-centric episode. And I was like, it's the same actor. But... Fun connection. Thank you, Jane Espenson. Jumping into this episode, we start out with Tom Paris being late on the bridge. I admit I was a little distracted because I was like opening windows or something as I was watching the first scene, and we were kind of on a time crunch, so I kind of just whatever. But his excuses felt legitimate to me from the bits I heard as I was walking around. Yeah. He had but nobody gave him any sympathy or quarter. Not even Harry, which I guess was supposed to show us he's been making excuses too often. But it felt like he maybe had a legitimate excuse, but I guess not.
It starts off as kind of comedic, too. He's talking about delivering Wildman's baby. And
right! Which Wildman hasn't actually had the baby yet, because that's an upcoming episode. But that's what I heard. I heard delivered the baby, and I'm like, why are they giving him crap? But I kind of missed part of the scene, and then I was like, in retrospect, I was like, oh, I get now. Okay.
Yeah. And then the
Wildman didn't
turbo
actually have the baby. Had she had the baby, they'd be excused.
Well, and then they reference it later in the episode that she stopped in for her checkup or whatever. And of course, yeah, again, everyone knows I'm a Paris and a Kes defender. But yeah, we'll get deeper into it. I guess I'll give them credit. I do feel uncomfortable with that whole thing, but I don't know if I feel uncomfortable. Like, I don't like it because I like Paris a lot, and I like Chakotay for that matter. Or I just don't like. It just feels clumsy still for me. But I feel like by the end of the episode, it was more of like, okay. And again, and there's also the MASH thing that I keep saying, which is we're 70,000 light years from home. I get we need to have order, but I feel like don't we have to do some things differently? Except, and Paris would be stronger if he was like if he was making my argument because obviously it's brilliant. But I think if he was more like, hey man, we're a million miles, we're 70,000 light years from home.
Yeah.
Here's some ideas I have, rather than I'm just going to show up late. And I also get his friction with Chakotay. And I also feel like there's a little bit, and maybe this is kind of a good thing, getting back to something you've talked about a lot, and we've talked about a lot, which is, shouldn't there be more friction between the I'm stalling their name, the
Maquis.
The Maquis.
Jeez. Yeah.
But in a sense of where I feel like Paris might be kind of like, who are you to tell me to get my stuff together? You guys, you're a ragtag group, obviously. But I do feel like some of that's Chakotay falling into it. And it makes sense. I was disappointed, and maybe it's because I just wanted more Janeway in the episode and more Janeway with Paris. But when she was like, no, you take care of it, I was like, oh, I'd rather you two. And maybe that's a character, me, the way I feel about the characters, as much as good TV or whatever. But yeah.
So when this plot arc started, I was very upset about it because it was like, Paris has come so far. Like, we've seen such growth in one season, but then halfway through season 2, and season 1 was shorter. So, like, basically one season of growth, and now we're backsliding, and that was frustrating to me.
Yeah.
But a couple episodes into this arc, I remembered how this arc ends, and I was like, and without giving anything away, positive or negative, all I will say is I'm very interested to see how you feel about the arc at the end of the arc. Yeah. Because I'd forgotten how it ended. And that, forgetting how it ended, I got very, very frustrated. Remembering now how it ended, I'm less frustrated. But I'm not going to tell you if I'm happy about it or not. I really want to know, without giving anything away. And this is a season 2 arc. It will, I'm pretty sure, fully play out in season 2.
Okay.
Especially as we do like 3 episodes in a row. I don't know if that'll quite get us to the end of it or not. Yeah. I just want to see if you think it was justified or not. But yeah, it's going somewhere is all I'm saying, essentially.
I did have a thought while watching it. I didn't look it up or stop the show or anything, but I was like, I was pretty sure we're in season 2, but I was like, are we in season 3? Which doesn't speak to me not liking it. I think it speaks more to me feeling like I know these characters and I feel comfortable with them. But yeah, only season 2.
Yeah. So at this point, we have the plot where we've introduced Dr. Danara Pell, played by Susan Deal, who's best known for Seinfeld, playing. Yeah. She's got 63 acting credits, but according to IMDb, her best known for is 1 episode of Seinfeld, The Nose Job, where she played Audrey. Yep. 2 episodes of Voyager playing this role. Sadly, it's only 2 episodes. But the second one is this season, so you're not going to have to wait long for her return. I think it's 6 episodes away. 2 episodes of CSI playing 2 different characters. And then a movie called Reality. So not a lot of credits, 63 credits, but her best known for are not like big, giant, notable roles. She did 64 episodes of Days of Our Lives, so that's like her most common. But I love her as Danara Pell, and even at the end of the series, despite the fact that it's 2 season 2 episodes, when I'm thinking through like the relationships of the show, to me, Dr. Danara Pell is the Doctor's best relationship. And that may be spoiling that like he never has a better one, because this is 2 episodes, but I really loved the connection between Dr. Pell and the Doctor.
Yeah, and her Seinfeld episode, the nose job, she is the one who gets the titular
The
nose
nose
job.
job. Yeah. I remember
And
that
her,
episode. I didn't remember it was her, but I remember the
yeah,
episode.
so she's kind of the focus of the episode, and it's a great at illuminating George's character. It's early on, yeah, it's 91. It's like season 2 or 3. But right before that, her credit right before that is Silicon Avatar, which we talked about her then as well from
Yeah.
Next Generation, season 3, episode 9 of Seinfeld. But yeah, I thought she was great in this episode. Again, I also think it's interesting that she doesn't have her face altered in this episode, but the whole episode is about making her look better, more or less. So I thought that was interesting because she's a very attractive woman who keeps getting these parts, and
I mean, I see a
for
recent
whatever
picture
reason,
of her, and granted, she's much older than me, but
yeah,
I would still, right now, date her. She is
yeah,
beautiful.
it's a very attractive woman, and so I think it's interesting that she gets in these parts because I guess if you because the idea of the nose job was at the end of the episode she's the after picture, so when she comes
Right.
in she's a very attractive woman, and I guess same here to a great extent. So, but yeah, I did
Looks like
find it
she's also
very.
director and producer, so she does more than
Oh,
just
okay.
act. She has
She's doing
16 producer credits, only one director, and most of them are shorts, but still, that 16 is no slouch. It means you're doing a lot of producing work.
and she was in the new Quantum Leap.
Yeah, she's 63, so she's got me by 20 years, but
Okay.
agreed. So they bring Dr. Danara Pell over. She's dying, so they recreate her body and they put her brain in the neural net
Yeah.
computer. For a minute, I was like, this is stupid Trek pseudoscience? But then I remembered
Yeah.
we just did it for Our Man Bashir, where several of the crew's neural patterns were trapped in the holodeck.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
was like, okay, so we definitely have some precedent. This isn't out of thin air. It's been done before.
So yeah, and I think Kess is the one who comes up with the idea. I thought, or maybe I'm thinking later in the episode, but
I
yeah,
don't
at
recall
first I
that,
was
but
like,
maybe.
yeah, Vidians. I just
Vidians are an interesting species. I like the
yeah.
Vidian species as a
I,
concept. I think they're way more interesting than the Kazon.
oh, I absolutely agree. I mean, and just the phage and just I think their makeup is really good. I thought
So
her makeup
gross.
for this wasn't super gross as we've seen, but it was still enough. And I was like, were you hollow for good? Which it is. Also, isn't it this? No. Oh yeah. D- How did you feel about the animation when they were creating her holographic?
I mean, I almost blushed a little bit when they created her naked body, and the doctor didn't blink, and Kess was embarrassed, and then they added clothes, and I was like, okay.
Yeah. I was wondering, like, y- are we going to see her like Ilea, or not? Not see her like Ilea, but at least from the neck up, and then I guess we did for a couple of seconds. Is Cass supposed to be like an elf? I know she's got the ears, but
Yeah,
her garb looks like she just came out of
yeah.
Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, right?
I definitely think the Okampa had strong elf vibes. Also
Yeah,
being wise beyond their years. Where elves are long-lived and Okampa are short-lived, I think it was like two sides of the same coin.
yeah.
The wisdom and
Oh, that's
stuff,
what you
yeah.
call. Yeah,
So I do think the Vidians, I'm trying to remember if they make it much into season 3 of Voyager or not. I'm not sure that they do. I think they're more of a season 1 and 2 villain because you have to move on from their space. Similar to, like, I could not wait to move on from the Kazon, but I was a little sad to leave the Vidians behind. I thought they were interesting. Granted, we have some
yeah.
really cool species coming up. We've got the Hydrogen, we've got species 8472, and we've got the Borg. Species 8472, pretty sure first fully CGI characters in Star Trek. So we'll get
Mm.
to that. They got like three, like Lieutenant Eric's in the animated series, three-legged, species. But
Oh,
we'll
yeah,
get to
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But then
yeah.
I think they did it all with CGI and there weren't actually actors behind it. But we'll get to that. Anyway, we go back to the bridge and Chakotay tries to pass disciplining of Paris off to Janeway, who
Yeah.
throws it back to him. I liked it, but it felt out of character for Janeway
Hmm.
to be like, nope, I just fully trust you. In a certain way, it felt out of character because it felt like she'd want to be involved, but in a certain way, it was like, no, that's good leadership, delegating and
Right.
letting the EXO handle it. Again,
Yeah.
we'll talk at the end of the arc in retrospect if you think all these decisions were good decisions or not.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt the same way. Like I said, I would. Part of me obviously wants to see Janeway and Paris interact, but also, it just felt clunky.
They had really started to bond, and then we did this.
Yeah.
So yeah. Again, this isn't the end of the story. So
Right.
Voyager is going to take Dr. Pell home. They say she's like 20-some days away from home, and they're going to take her home. Are they really going, they never mention, is she on their route home, or are they going 3 weeks out of their way to take her home?
Right.
I think you need a line of dialogue to tell us which is true.
Yeah.
We had that really cool moment where Dr. Pell sees herself on the table and the out-of-body experience. That was neat. Yeah. Great writing.
The mirror they hand her is the same as the mirror my hairdresser hands me so I can look at the back of my head and see if I like my hair. So, I mean, it was literally, I guess back then maybe it looked a little futuristic, but yeah, it looked the exact same. So I like that.
Director Cliff Bull, one of our regulars, written by Kenneth Biller, one of our regulars. There's also staff writer credit for Lisa Klink, not sure. But yeah, these were people heavily involved in the series. Dr. Pell Danara names the doctor Chomulus after her uncle. How do you feel as the name of the doctor? Do you wish that had stuck? Chomulus? I'm probably pronouncing it wrong now.
At some point he gets an actual name, right?
No.
He's just
you've seen Surgic Prodigy. He's the doctor.
He's just the doctor, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So I guess I like a bit that continues that way, actually. So if that's that, he just can't find a name he likes. So which is a Seinfeld bit too. But
I feel like if you were going to name him, having Dr. Pell name him would have been the closest you come to actually doing it. But that name is so terrible. Schmalus or whatever. Schmalus? Whatever.
Yeah.
It's such an awful name.
It's hard to say, and it sounds like you're mumbling. Yeah.
I definitely think I'm saying it wrong, but yeah.
I think you're saying it right, actually. I didn't mean to say it. You're mumbling. I think anytime they said it, I was like, "What are they saying?" Oh,
said it 3 different ways. So if I'm saying it right, which of the 3 wasn't?
Yeah, right.
Torres resists giving up her DNA because we saw in that previous episode that Klingon DNA can help Vidians. I actually wish that had been a longer sequence and spent more time with that plot.
I agree.
Having an episode where Torres has to genuinely decide would have been cool.
I thought it was dismissed very quickly.
It could have been an A-plot.
Yeah, it made me go to whose forehead makeup is better, Balera or Danara?
So the Bellata has better forehead makeup. More attractive forehead makeup?
Yeah.
Granted, Dr. Danara Pell is attractive. I'm not saying she's not. But I think she's attractive in spite of her makeup rather than because of her makeup. Roxanne Dawson is attractive with or without the makeup. Yeah. But I do find Klingon makeup to be a little bit attractive in general. Like, similar to Terry Farrell, like she's beautiful without the trill spots. Yeah. But trill spots, I think we agreed, enhance whoever they're on. Yeah. I think Klingon makeup also does a little bit of enhancement, even if you don't need it. I think Vidia makeup is a little bit of a detraction, but because Susan is so beautiful, it doesn't matter.
I think you're right. I think Torres looks great with it, and of course the Duras sisters look great with it.
Duras sisters look great because of their boob windows.
Well, of course, that's
among other things. Among other things.
Yeah, I just like their style, but I felt like
attitudes or what?
Yeah, maybe I need to look. This would be developing. We got 5 more seasons, 5.5 more seasons. I thought Torres's looked too clean in this episode, and I thought Danara's looked more authentic, for lack of a better term. But you're right. Torres's hair just looks great, and her hair looked better than Danara's. So I think
Danara's the Vidian makeup without phage reminded me a little bit of the original Trill from Next Gen. That weird forehead thing. Yeah. The doctor mentions he does a treatment
Yeah.
discovered by Dr. Leonard McCoy.
Leonard McCoy, yeah.
He gives a year, so I looked in, and according to Memory Alpha, the year the Doctor cites in this episode is the year Spock joins the Enterprise, and it would have been the year, even though it's not established in canon, it's theoretically the year that makes sense that McCoy graduated from the Academy. So we're talking about McCoy at the beginning of his career. My alternate episode here, first of all, I think it should have been a later year. I think they should have added. I was hoping it would coincide with a movie or TV show. I was really disappointed it didn't, that it was earlier than that.
Yeah.
My alternate episode was the Doctor has trouble solving this. It's more focused on the medical mystery rather than the romance. And he uses a holographic Dr. McCoy because DeForest Kelly's still alive. And it would be an old McCoy. And I think you justify it by saying, well, we already know McCoy's like 120 years old in this time period. You say this is the contemporary McCoy. You probably don't even need that much old age makeup at this point on DeForest Kelly. Right. And that would have been a stellar guest starring of Dr. McCoy and the Doctor trying to figure it out, because the Doctor is the closest to McCoy we've had in a Doctor. Bashir is so different. Crusher and Blasky. Blasky was a little bit. Crusher is so different. The Doctor is almost McCoy 2.0. So I would have loved that exchange. Yeah. But also, pick a later year. That was way too early a year to cite.
Yeah, agreed.
So the Doctor tries to invite her on a study date and then decides to change it to a walk. As obtuse as he is, I don't think he should have been the one to decide to change the study date to a walk. I feel like he should have kept it the study date, and she suggested it be a walk. But it was a nice recovery from his stumble the study date because he took her to Sandrine's, and we know that's a perfect date place.
Well, yeah. And I thought that was going to lead to some other things of her being like, oh my God, I'm being around all these people and I can look great here. And which it was kind of the whole idea of the episode to a great extent.
She only cared how the Doctor saw her, though. She didn't care about how anybody else saw her.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Do you think that's like falling in love with the person treating you? I don't know what that is, but I feel like
like a Stockholm syndrome before doctor-patient. Is it Nightingale syndrome? Something along those. I don't think that was present in this episode. I think that would be very easy to think it was present in this episode. I think they were careful not to write that way.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But I get your point, yeah. Yeah. The alien that hits on her in Sandrine's, that's got to be a crew member, right? Because isn't Sandrine's from a point of Earth where there would have been no aliens? I can't remember if there was a specific year assigned.
Good question. Well, that guy is Gigolo. That is what he is billed as.
Rick I don't know if that's Giannassi has no credits, basically. Yeah. No picture on IMDb.
He has a very small number of credits on IMDb. And I don't know, I don't know if that's supposed to be his name or if the idea is he is a gigolo, but
I think he is a gigolo. His one and only Star Trek credit, of course. But yeah, I think he's got to be a crew member, not a hologram, which is even worse.
Yeah. When I saw, he was the only guest star listed, in the closing credits because we already seen our girl Seska
and Jonas and Lorem, the other Kazon, and then Dr. Pell,
Yep. So, yeah, Rick Giannassi's still with us, I believe. Well,
I did not see a death date, so...
Yeah, so... Still out.
Back to the bridge, Paris has complained to Chakotay that he always ignores his suggestions and actually accuses him of micromanaging. And as awful as Paris is in the subplot, for a second, with the you never give me any freedom to do anything and you micromanage me, I started to take Paris's side in the disagreement for a minute.
Of course, I am, but is that on the bridge or is that we're still on the bridge or the mess hall?
I don't remember which location the scene was in, but the micromanage stuff.
Yeah, let me find out.
I think it was mess hall because Jonas witnessed it for sure, but he's never on the bridge.
And I always think of it as 10 forward, but I guess they're not really serving drinks there, though, right?
So it's actually the captain's private dining room,
That's
even though
right.
it is a
That's right.
completely redressed 10 forward. It is 10. They built it on the same soundstage as 10 forward, and they use 10 forward as the base. That's why the door is essentially the same to come
That's
in,
right.
if you
Yeah.
notice. But it is, yeah, it's a redressed set that doesn't have the levels that 10 forward
Right.
has. So heavily redressed set. But yeah, it's 10 forward. It's the captain's private dining room, which means it's not big enough to hold too many people, and yet it looks almost identical to the little bit larger dining hall on lower decks. So, take that as you will.
Yeah. And I think that the argument there, I think there's some specifics in there where, like, I get Paris being like, you know what? I had an idea. And you were like, no. But maybe it's something they need to work out. But obviously, we can see Paris bristling under that. But also, I feel like, man, just do your thing, and then you've got this Sandrines you hang out at all the time. That's your job. That's your thing. Is taking care of the. I mean, a lot of the rest of the crew. Neelix is hanging out there, obviously, among
Yeah.
others. So
Well, yeah.
yeah. So, but
I think
we'll
everybody
see.
hangs out there. It feels like at this point, I don't think they've established it, but I feel like in some episode there's a line that one of the holodecks is just permanently Sandrine's now. So I swear we haven't heard that yet, but I also swear I remember it being said at some point that they're just like, yep, we've got like 3 holodecks and one of them's just Sandrine's, which makes sense in a lot of ways. Like it's the perfect hangout for this crew. So anyway.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Jonas reports to the Kazon about what he witnessed with Chakotay and Paris, and like deepens the Kazon plot and tries to deepen his value to the Kazon. So we'll see.
I thought that was kind of funny because at first I was going to write that what a little gossip, or whatever, and then obviously that whole thing kind of turns. But do we think Lorem is going to hold firm with at first or Jonas? I'm sorry. At first he's like with Lorem, he's like, I'm not going to damage Voyager, and then Seska's like, hey, I want you to do this, and I feel like we don't hear for sure, right? I guess we'll see in the weeks ahead.
I don't think we've heard for sure, but it definitely felt like Jonas has been really pushing to talk to Seska, and they wouldn't let him. And the fact that he bristled is why they gave in and they let him talk to Seska to try to get him to do what they want. This is all building towards the season finale, of course. I think you could have guessed that on your own without me saying it.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that shakes out at the end of season 2 and beginning of season 3, because there's a cliffhanger. As TNG like to do in its later seasons, Voyager will, not every year, and Deep Space Nine will also, the DS9 and Voyager will, like, not every year, but they like to end seasons on cliffhangers in this era of Star Trek, which I don't disapprove of as long as you know you're coming back.
Right.
So, anyway. The Doctor's very, very straightforward with Danara, where in the middle of their conversation, he's like, find you sexually attractive. And it turns her off that he's so direct. Why? I would think directness is an attractive quality. Am I wrong? Am I that far out on the limb?
I get when Kes is like, maybe this isn't the place to do this. But beyond that, I think, And I feel like Danara could have also done that and been like, can we talk about this in a little while?
Yeah.
And then I guess they end up doing that. They actually end up doing that. But yeah. And it was humorous and when I say cringe, I don't mean him saying that is cringy. Just it made me feel like, oh, buddy, don't say it now. Say it later, and say it in a different way or whatever. But yeah, he's very direct, and eventually he does win her over. Like,
enjoyed the scene where the Doctor goes to Paris for advice following this. Yes, I think that was the right person to go to. I think Paris gives good advice. I did appreciate the whole Paris thinking this was theoretical and then be like, oh, buddy, are you talking about yourself?
Yeah.
Good stuff.
It made me think about when Paris had the hots for Kes, and so maybe it's like, oh yeah, I just went through this. Yeah. Well, here's what I would do or whatever, or not do or whatever. Of course, Danara doesn't have a longtime companion or whatever. I wrote, and this
No,
is later maybe, but should Kes be giving love advice to anybody?
no, because she's in a
Yeah.
terrible relationship with an awful man. I mean, Neelix isn't awful, but he's awful as a romantic partner.
He's
Back to
huge,
Paris, though, for a
so
second. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
I really appreciated that this episode, where you mostly hate Paris for his behavior, in the scene
Uh-huh.
with the doctor, he never once judges or ridicules the doctor. He is fully supportive and a good person. And so if
Yeah.
you're writing Paris off as he's just an awful person, and I do think, again, when we get to the end of the arc, we'll talk about how this reflects on him. But
Mhm.
I really appreciated getting this. This felt like old Paris pre the rebellion. And to
Yeah.
have part of it in here, I think, was important and great.
I did write down, I think this is the conversation we were talking about earlier. Paris gives 360 feedback, or maybe it's 180 feedback. But either way, he's like, I know this is my evaluation, but I have some thoughts for you, which I actually appreciate because and I will say in my for you Patreon folks, my current boss is very good at like, well, what do you need me to do better? And I very much appreciate that. I think she's sincere about that. And
Nice.
I don't know. I don't know if Chakotay is as much. I don't know if he really does want the feedback. To be fair,
No, Chakotay is not shown to be a good manager in this episode.
yeah, yeah. I don't like it. But I like obviously I like Chakotay, but I don't like that. I think I'm going back here, but there's a conversation where Danara says congregating in groups is strictly regulated, is considered to be a threat to public health for the Vidians. And the doctor says a wise policy. And she says, I suppose sometimes I think my people spend so much time trying to save lives they don't know how to live anymore. And this is the thing I've been beating the drum for, and this is the Star Wars part of the podcast. Very similar sentiment of like, and I feel like the better Star Wars do this better than the bad ones, but it's like because some of Star Wars is just it's just a beatdown. It's like this isn't fun or interesting. Just the idea of like, what are we trying to save here exactly?
Right. Well, the
if we're not-
Vidians have been
yeah,
fighting the Phage for 2 millennia. That says on memory
yeah,
alpha. 2,000 years. Can you imagine
yeah.
if we were still fighting a disease from the time of Jesus Christ?
No, because our
That
country couldn't
alters
handle-
your society permanently
our
in
country
such a
couldn't
way.
handle 9 months of COVID. So yeah,
Right?
clearly we can't. But I thought it was a really good thing of like I said, because I feel like on Star Wars it's like, well, what are we fighting to save here? We're always like, yeah, we got to fight in Star Wars. It's like, for what? Because you guys aren't having a good time at any point. So what are we fighting to save here?
The car on the ridge scene where they're parking, very old-fashioned, very sweet. That is the scene where Danara and the Doctor really fall in love with each other.
Yeah.
And loved it. No notes.
Maybe the Star Wars podcast continues here, but and maybe this makes sense, but it's like in Star Trek in the future, when they look back, they're never like driving like an 80s or a 90s car around. And granted, the 50s cars look great. And maybe it's a allusion to our boy, George Lucas, American Graffiti, all those great cars from the early 60s and late 50s or whatever. And they definitely have a distinct look. No one thinks the 90s cars have a distinct look. That's or anything. But I just thought it was interesting. Like, there are some cool cars, I think, from once you get past the 50s and the 60s, but it still looked great though. And I also love there being a matte painting there that looked very TOS. A lot of this, I like a lot of good TOS allusions and references in this episode.
I think the 50s car is just a reflection of the age the writers and producers of the show are.
Yes, yeah. And it's 96 96. So I guess, you're not going to put a Geo Metro or whatever in there or whatever.
Should have been a DeLorean. No, I'm just
That would be funny. Yeah.
You need a convertible. You got to have a convertible for a scene like this, though. Yeah. I love tying it into Paris, like Tom recommended this. But what a cool thing to be on Mars, seeing Earth. We see some buildings on Mars, which is probably Utopia Planitia or whatever, the shipyards, right? Where they design and build the Starfleet vessels, I assume.
Oh, right.
We won't see that again until Star Trek Picard, I don't think. But then they share a kiss, and it's so sweet.
It is. And I'm glad they kind of had the conversation about the Doctor adapting. So, because I was like, where do you learn to kiss? But it's like, no, he's adapting. He's figuring this stuff out. Also, before the date, the last thing Kes says to Danara is, I can't pretend to know what your life's been like, but I do know there's nothing sadder than a missed opportunity, which is very similar to a line, and I know he's canceled, but we're going to talk about him, Woody Allen. That's very similar to a line from his movie, A Midsummer Night's Sex Comedy, where he says, the saddest thing in life is a missed opportunity. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that says more about Kes or the writers, but she's
Not
not
wrong.
wrong, and neither
Not
was
wrong.
Woody in that movie. Also, not a perfect movie, but a fun one, and it's obviously based on Midsummer Night's Dream, updated by Woody Allen. But so I recommend
Updated
it.
by Joss Whedon, who was canceled too.
Yeah,
Well, it's about
exactly.
Midnight Summer Night's Dream attracts the canceled guys.
Yeah, so if you want to separate the art from the artist, I would recommend that. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. That just really definitely caught my ear. So
We then get the culmination of the Paris plot for this episode, where he is late to the bridge, is replaced on a ship, and then shoves Chakotay and gets arrested.
yeah,
I feel like you've taken this plot as far as it can go. You've got to be at the apex of it, and this has got to start to pay off. Like now.
yeah.
I think it actually might be a few episodes before it pays off, but it feels like we've hit the peak.
Yes, yeah, because it's like, well, okay, where do we go from here? Yeah, and and again, I'm a Paris apologist. Did Chakotay actually have to take his arm? Like, you're coming with me?
No,
And does he
that's
have to
the
go
thing.
to the
Like, as
bridge?
much as I'm frustrated with Paris, in this episode, Chakotay does not do what he should be doing. I don't know. Frustrating.
Yeah, and why not just be like, hey, you know what? How about you take a night off? Or I mean, you already kind of replaced him, but you know what? Why don't you go back to your quarters and think about this rather than the brig? But then again, maybe it's okay to see some hot-headedness from Chakotay too, even if it's wrong and misplaced in my mind. But yeah. So we'll see where that goes. But
Then Siska shows back up. Was not expecting Martha Hackett after all these weeks where we dance around her and don't show her.
the only reason I expected her was because I saw her name again in the early credits.
Right.
Oh yeah, Martha
Right.
Hackett. Oh, cool, Seska, and then it was just very, very short. Maybe we already talked about this, but I wonder what else she was up to during this time.
I don't think it was that she was up to anything. I don't think they wanted to pay her for more episodes than they needed her
that
for.
makes
She ended up doing 13 episodes of Voyager ultimately. And in this season, she's going to be in twice more after this. She'll be in the very next episode, and then she'll be in the season finale.
And then and I can't remember, was this episode or our episode last week on DS9, but it's probably last week, but there was a scene where there's two people talking to whoever, and the one person does all the talking. I'm like, why isn't the other person? Oh, they don't want to pay them for a speaking part. I was like, yep, okay, I get it.
That was last week, yeah.
I think it was, yeah. That was funny. Funny to me.
Danara sabotages her own cure.
Yeah.
Which sucks. I get it. I do get it. From a realistic perspective, after we've got she's been suffering from this disease all her life, doesn't see herself as attractive, although if her species has been suffering from this disease for 2,000 years, they'd probably find that probably would not hurt the attractiveness if they all have it. Right.
Right.
You just all accept that as part of it. Just like nowadays when everybody gets fat, most people accept the fatness as it's not a red line.
Right.
We've had in human history, we've had periods where we found fat attractive and periods where we found skinny attractive, depending on context. I think after 2,000 years of the phage, the fact that she thinks she's ugly because she's sick doesn't ring true to me. It rings false.
That's an interesting point. Yeah,
but maybe you couldn't justify it like she actually saw herself without the phage, which she probably has never seen, and that changes her perspective.
When she comes out and the doctor touches her face, which I don't know, he's a doctor, he knows how it works, but I was like, you know what, she doesn't look so bad actually compared to most
Seriously?
videos. I feel like other Vidians are like they're melting and stuff.
Yeah,
she looks pretty big still. Yeah.
I disagree.
Yeah.
The doc doesn't mind the disease, and that's good. Yeah. I do think you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody that wasn't a hologram that totally doesn't mind it.
Oh, that's a good point.
I don't want to be superficial or shallow, but honestly, this disease is so gross. I don't think I could be with someone that had it. I don't think I could.
I don't think I could either. And that was and so yeah, so I thought the ending we kind of, or as we're getting towards the ending, we kind of get in a mini menagerie thing where she's like, "Oh, I'd rather live the next few days looking like this than go back to that," and then and then eventually she changed her mind, or they changed her mind, or whatever. But there's also a little bit of is there in truth no beauty going on here as well, where she's in this body and she's like, "This is great. I don't want to go back. How do we keep this? I want to do this all the time." And I'm kind of disappointed that they don't figure out a way to make that happen. Like all the amazing things they can do, they cure the common cold. We can cure the common cold, but we can't fix you in the face or just let her stay. Like, and that's the menagerie part to me, is like, what if she just stays in that and lives in Sandrine's the rest of her life?
You could. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Wouldn't that be a better life?
Absolutely.
I
think she wanted to. But the problem was the mental pattern was deteriorating, right? There was a time limit. Same thing the Deep Space Nine had. So, yeah, it couldn't. She couldn't. That wasn't an option. But she wanted to. It seemed like she was choosing. She'd rather have a short life looking like this than a long life looking the other way. And while I can appreciate that she should have agency to make that decision, I don't agree with it.
It did keep making me think of, and I've never seen the whole movie, but just I do know the line from Steel Magnolia. Wouldn't it be great to have a little bit of wonderful instead of a lifetime of nothing or whatever? I'm completely butchering that line, but it made me think she was like, I'd rather have 2 days of great stuff rather than a lifetime of this or whatever,
Right.
But I did like, I mean, the doctor's last line, but we still have 2 weeks together before we reach your colony. Please be with me for as long as you can. And that's very touching. But the part of me that's like, well, I feel like you guys should be able to figure this out. But, obviously, I guess if they figured out every episode, then yeah. It's lines, but it still makes sense.
No, I mean, they've been meddling for 2,000 years. If they couldn't figure it out after 2,000 years, I can't believe the Doctor would be able to figure it out. But, I don't know.
I only have a couple more.
Let's say that dance at the end was just super sweet. Like, it was. It was. The romantic plot in this episode was wonderful.
To undercut that, here's my alternative episode. My thought was when Danara goes to Danara goes to Sandrine's, I thought she was going to connect with Paris and they were going to hook up. That's what I thought was going to happen there. So that's my alternate episode, which is, again, it's just a different episode, not better. And then we talked about Gigolo. And I know I keep coming back to the sexy Kes voice. And I looked up to see if anyone else, it's funny, the only place they're really talking about it, rather than being like, I hate Kes, I'm glad she left the show, or I'm bummed she's, what happened to the actress or whatever, among other things. But Reddit is the place to talk about Kes's sexy voice, as I call it. But and I guess I reached another level this week where I know we talk about how young she was and turn on the perv corner lights, but her voice is so deep and everything. I'm like, I'm just impressed. Like she's got that register. Like she sounds like Suzanne Plachette, but sing-song. Like it's deep, but it's sing-songy. And actually, it was funny. The Reddit people were like, it's just so soothing. It just makes me feel relaxed and better, which I think is. I'm sure Jennifer Lean never goes anywhere near these things, but I hope somebody gets this stuff back to her. Like, by the way, there are a bunch of people. I hope she's hearing me saying how much I enjoy her. But that was my last note.
Great. So let's get to the rankings here.
Let's do it.
Who was your annoyance in the episode Lifesigns?
Chakotay.
I mean, he was a terrible boss, right? I did choose Paris.
Yeah.
Even though, he was justified in some of it.
Sure.
I did think he was too rebellious for the job and whatever.
Yeah.
Who are you having a drink with?
My boy Paris.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Danara Pell, obviously, as the hologram, but...
That's where I would usually go, but I went with my boy.
I know. Now you left me out on the limb.
So there you
Uh,
go. Growth for 1 week.
good,
I'll be right
good,
back
good.
next week.
I'm proud of
I'll be
you.
back next week.
Who was your inspiring character this week?
Our girl, Danara. Yeah. That she kind of came around. I just think, I mean, that's a tough decision to make. And you could also go to the doctor too. I think, it's interesting. I always talk about forced constructs, and, but they set the parameters here that about her and being in the body and all that stuff, and they continue to reinforce that. It's interesting to me that part seems a lot less forced than what's going on with Paris and Chakotay, which people experience in the modern in our world, in the modern world, in our world now, or in lots of areas where it's like me and this person are just not getting along, and I don't know what the deal is, or vice versa, or like this person's not listening to me, or this person's on my back all the time. But that seems more forced than this entire science fiction-y thing. And I think some of that is because of Danara, and I guess some of that's our girl Susan Dial. No,
Yeah.
Susan Dial. Yeah, Susan Dial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
We want to rank the episode. Oof.
Yeah. We're
It's
19
rough.
deep. Wow.
Yeah,
No,
I don't
18th,
know.
18th episode. No, 19th episode this season. Wow.
Yeah. Let's start with 2 episodes ago, Dreadnought, Balana and the bomb she created, the torpedo she created.
Oh, yeah.
I'm torn.
That's a good starting point, sure.
I think so.
Yeah. I could probably go either way. My recency bias is saying this episode, but
I was going to say above. I was going to say above.
Yeah.
Above that is Meld. I might have to go below.
I think that's where I'm going to land too, yeah.
So, Meld was 16.
I think that's a good spot.
In air date, Meld was 16 for the season, Dreadnought was 17, and this is 18. So we got 3 in a row right here. This is number 7 of the 18 for our rankings. But we've had 3 in a row, and sorry, this is 19. So 16, 19, 17 right here together, because 18 was Death Wish, it's a little higher. But I will say the single digits tend to be lower, other than like projections is kind of high and Elogium is kind of high. Lately, we've been towards the higher end of the season. We've had several in a row that we're putting in that top half of the season. So do you think season 2 has improved from where it started, or do you think it's still crappy?
I would, it doesn't feel like, oh man, it's so much better now, but it does feel like it's incrementally better. Like, yeah, we're getting there. We're going up the roller coaster. Yeah,
that's where I'm landing, that it's not great, but it's better than it was.
Yeah. I think that's where I am too. Yeah.
Deep Space Nine keeps it like down because, we just it just sucks.
It is almost unfair the way we're watching these.
Right? This is an argument for doing Deep Space Nine completely and then Voyager completely, but
I get that. But I like the way we do this because
me too.
It's interesting. Some people think we're crazy for doing it this way.
I know. Because it takes us more than a calendar year to do these 2 seasons there simultaneously without a break. Next week, we're going to be with Voyager for several weeks. So I'm not even going to tell you what the next Deep Space Nine is, because we already go back and listen to last week's if you want to hear. Next week, Investigations. Tom Paris quits Voyager and joins a Talaxian colony.
Oh my.
Yep. Talaxians being Neelix's people. If you're going to quit Voyager, is Neelix's species the one you want to join up with?
No, that's a bold move.
We also have in the photos, if you look at the photos, IMDb, one of the top photos is Michael Jonas, our spy, holding a phaser on the back of Neelix's head. So there's some stuff going down next week. Seska will return next week, although she'll also be back for the finale. Some things are going to happen with the Kazon. Until then, live long.
And start taking things seriously. And prosper.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?